tribes. I know we don't talk about tribal politics that often.
Really?
Oh, wait, that's a joke, of course. Yes, we do. But this time it's actual tribes. And I wanted to talk a little bit about something that's been in the news. You might be able to preempt, based on what I'm talking about first, what news story this might be. But I wanted to talk preliminarily about isolated tribes. Obviously, this isn't a problem in the upcoming elections in both the UK and US, but there is something very, very important. There's an important bit of commentary here that is of interest to all human beings, I think. But don't worry, I'll get to it. There's a bit of a surprise. It's going to be a bit of fun.
Right.
So, obviously, tribes that come into contact with Europe, they don't tend to fare too well. In Australia, for example, they have significant problems with alcohol abuse. We've got examples where the Australian government has to put out information campaigns telling them not to drink petrol. They sleep in the middle of the road. There have been videos saying, please don't sleep in the road because you'll get hit by a car. They're not faring too well with modernity, let's just say that.
Yeah.
And, it's to the point where Australia has to re-ban alcohol in some Aboriginal communities just to make sure they don't drink themselves to death, which is actually quite tragic, really.
Yeah.
Because, I'm joking around, but, I have a certain amount of admiration for people who live as hunter-gatherers, right?
Yeah.
I grew up on the edge of Dartmoor. I like my camping. I've watched Ray Mears growing up. Love my sort of bushcraft.
Yeah.
So, I've got a certain amount of respect for it. I'm not putting them down. I'm just saying that there's a certain responsibility that we have not to spoil their way of life. And I think sometimes that does happen when there is contact between the two.
Yeah.
And things like the North Sentinelese, famous now in the news because Lord Miles is saying that he's going to go there. Don't think he's being serious.
No.
But part of the reason that they're so hostile to outsiders, and they killed an American, I think he was there to convert them to Christianity, if I remember rightly off the top of my head. But they became hostile after contracting diseases from coming into contact with the outside world. And in fact, you got people in the Andaman Islands, which is, sort of Indian Ocean as well. And they supposedly were hit pretty heavily with coronavirus, of all things, because they simply don't have the immune systems.
Right.
But, there are lots of cases of other diseases. You've got the Native Americans with smallpox. Yeah. And so they don't have immune systems. It is dangerous for them. And there's also things like this, uncontacted tribes in Indonesia coming across illegal mining and logging, and this happens in the Amazon as well, and this threatens their way of life. And it's making them force to end their isolation in the Amazon, which I think is a tragedy, really. It's similar, in my mind, to having a species go extinct, that a culture has to be forced to be destroyed. And it is to the point now where there are magazines like Time saying, is it ethical to leave uncontacted tribes alone? And I think it should be the opposite question, really. Should it be ethical to contact them? I think they should be left alone, personally, to mind their own business, because clearly we're not doing them any favours from what we've had here.
Seem happy enough.
Yeah, they do. And that leads us to this. So, the internet's final frontier, remote Amazon tribes. So this is a story about how a journalist took the trek into a remote part of the Amazon to find out what a remote, isolated tribe, how it's faring after it's got Elon Musk's Starlink.
Right.
Which I think is a great thing, right? That you can be in the middle of the Amazon and you can get high-speed internet. I like that. I mean, I want that all over the world.
I can't get it anywhere in Wales.
Yeah, I don't even get it in Swindon.
No.
So.
That's an interesting title, because they're saying Elon Musk's Starlink has connected an isolated tribe to the outside world and divided it from within.
Well, obviously there's an incentive here to paint Elon Musk as being a bad guy because he's got naughty politics, and therefore him providing them with internet is bad, and he's destroying their culture because it's Elon Musk. It's him personally that's doing this.
Okay,
he just hates Amazonian tribes.
Okay, so they really don't like the dissolution of that culture, but they have zero problem with the destruction of other cultures.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But this article is very long, and I actually quite enjoyed reading it, despite the sort of political agenda. It was quite interesting from a sort of anthropological perspective.
Yeah.
It did try and sort of grapple with the issues and weigh up the pros and cons and sort of give a spectrum of opinions, but of course they've got to have a sort of clickbaity title that gets people to read it, right? So this is actually talking about the Marubo people, which is about a 2,000 plus strong tribe in the Amazon, the Brazilian Amazon, that is. And this article, which doesn't make any mention of, any of the problems in the headline, other than that it's slightly divided, sparked a very large amount of coverage from other outlets, but it took a slightly different tone. So here we have the New York Post saying, remote Amazon tribe finally connects to internet, only to wind up hooked on porn and social media. Which I think it's hard to imagine that these tribes who are still living sort of semi-hunter-gatherer lifestyles are there posting on social media, just wrestled an anaconda today. Like humble bragging, and then they go back to their hut and who knows what in the privacy of their leaves. So this was published at the start of June, and it's one of the first articles written about this and taking this angle. And I'm going to read a little bit from it because the language they use and how they explain it's going to become very important. A reclusive tribe in the Amazon finally got hooked up to the internet thanks to Elon Musk, only to be torn apart by social media and pornography addictions, elders complain. Brazil's 2,000-member Marubo tribe has been left bitterly divided by the arrival of Tesla founder's Starlink service 9 months ago, which connected the remote rainforest community along the Itui River to the web for the first time. And this is a direct quote. When it arrived, everyone was happy. Tassi Nama Marubo, 73, told the New York Times. But now things have gotten worse. Young people have gotten lazy because of the internet. They're learning the ways of the white people, which I feel is a bit harsh.
Oh, it's pretty true, though, isn't it? When you look at the younger generation now, absolutely. Social media, that's all they do. They sit on TikTok, Facebook, and it tends to be their life now.
I think there's been a pushback in recent years. None of my old school friends have Facebook accounts anymore.
Yeah.
I got rid of mine.
Yeah.
Loads of people are moving away from it because they realise it's pretty vapid and meaningless.
But I mean, like the young, 16-year-olds now.
Yeah, that's true. Before they know better, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. We remember it coming in.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've seen the damage, whereas to them, it's the norm.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Well, I mean, it was about when I was still in school.
Yes.
I'm only 28, although this job has aged me a bit. But yes, and there was a follow-up article from the New York Times that sort of rebutted this narrative because over 100 different outlets covered this angle of this story, saying, Elon Musk got an Amazonian tribe addicted to porn was the angle. And we'll be naming and shaming them later. Yeah. But this is the same guy who went to the Amazonian tribe, did the article, spoke to them, he was there. He's the one to know. And he says, no, they did not get addicted to porn. So he goes on to say, actually, the leader of the tribe spent a year outside of the jungle and thought that Starlink could help his tribe get better internet because they had it already.
Yeah.
So they decided as a community, after they discussed it, weighed up the pros and cons, which he communicated to them, they decided that it's more useful than harmful.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just something that they had no idea of.
No.
It's not that they have no contact with the outside world. It's just that they had it because it provides better internet than getting a cable from like some of the more urban areas of Brazil and running it all the way through the Amazon. It makes more sense to do that. And so it was misrepresented that these were just people who were completely uncontacted, no notion of the outside world. And in fact, it says that most people in the community think it's an overall positive thing with few downsides. And I've got a direct quote here, and it says, over the past week, more than 100 websites around the world have published headlines that falsely claim the Marubo have become addicted to porn. Alongside those headlines, the sites published images of the Marubo people in their villages. And it's worth mentioning that this culture frowns upon even kissing in public.
Right.
So the notion that they're going to be, they're so conservative that they don't even like that.
Yeah.
So the notion that they're going to be addicted to pornography is a bit much. So what actually happened was there was a single case that is mentioned in the original New York Times article of a minor posting pornography in a WhatsApp group chat, which is obviously not ideal. That's something that wouldn't have happened otherwise, and obviously that's bad. But one case where they were told off and said, don't do that again, don't look at that, it's bad for you, which is what actually happened, doesn't mean the entire tribe is approving of it. That's very, very different.
Yeah, but it wouldn't make a title.
Yeah.
But you've got to think that if he was just putting the satellite stuff there, they had to have mobile phones in the first place.
Well, exactly.
So people thinking about this, reading that, would have thought, well, so they'd have had to teach them to read and write.
Yeah. There's a lot of things you'd have to learn, isn't
Give
it?
them mobile
I
phones,
was under the
power banks.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah.
I was under the impression of, bringing in this brand new thing and they say, oh, but obviously not.
You see what you've got there is something that mainstream journalists don't have. And it's common sense.
Yes.
Rational inference as well. But yes, the misreporting of this story by all of the mainstream media has obviously caused a major amount of distress in the tribe because it's caused them a lot of reputational damage. If wherever they go, people are doing obscene hand gestures to signal what they get up to in their huts, then it's going to hurt their feelings.
Yeah,
because they are human beings, you know. And they do work in like small towns, in sort of the more conventionally Brazilian parts of the Amazon. They live, work and study there. They're not completely isolated, and there are rumours in these towns about these people now, and they're going to have to live with it because of the mainstream media coverage. And also, of course, they have access to the internet, so they can be trolled and abused directly now by people on the internet. The notion that in my living memory I can troll a remote Amazonian tribe, I didn't think was possible. But obviously don't do it. It's me.
I'd love the headline: Elon bans tribe in Amazon. In Amazonia.
Deplatforms them.
Deplatforms.
Tribe member gets suspended.
But then it's very interesting how they explain, because they're spot on as to why this has actually happened. It says many of the sites that distorted this detail are news aggregators, meaning their business model is largely designed around repackaging the reporting of other news organizations with often sensationalist headlines to sell ads, which is 100% true, because these sites also link to the original reporting, they're generally legally protected, even if they misrepresent the material. By now, these sorts of sites and misleading headlines are just another part of the internet economy. To an informed internet user, their tactics are familiar. But for the Marubo people, however, the experience was bewildering and infuriating.
Send us that link.
Yeah.
Send us, yeah.
What to this article where they say that?
What you've just read, yeah.
Okay, of course, yeah.
Thank you.
And even Elon Musk fell victim to a bit of misinformation. So I don't know who this guy is, S.E. Robinson Jr., says the New York Times posted a false story about Starlink and an Amazonian tribe, but it wasn't a false story. It wasn't them that actually got it wrong. They were the ones that were the original story that was misrepresented. And then Elon Musk is now presenting misinformation on top of misinformation here. Yeah. It was disrespectful and unkind of the New York Times to say that about the tribe. But it actually wasn't them. Yeah. And I'm no defender of the New York Times. They're not paying me any money, by the way. And I have done an entire book club on a book exposing stories of where the New York Times has actively misrepresented and lied. So you can watch that. Me and Harry did it a long time ago. Yes, not a fan of them. But, I do actually care about something that isn't cared about too much anymore. It's called truth. It's an oft overlooked thing in this day and age. But yes, it's also worth mentioning another person out on the internet. This gave me hope for humanity, did their due diligence and actually did some research and said that they've been using the internet for a long time. This isn't really anything new. They've been able to access this sort of thing. And here's a picture to sort of prove it. They'd already had internet. Yes. So well done to Jason Kobler, I think his name is. You are one of the few people on the internet that actually presented this correctly. And yes, I think it's time to name and shame some of the outlets that fell victim to this sensationalism, because there's nothing I like more than shaming mainstream journalists, rubbing their nose in their mistakes. So starting with The Telegraph, remote tribe gets hooked on internet porn, and I can't see the author of this one to name and shame them. Yep, you don't even get to see it, but there we go. And then you have this outlet called, I think it's called Futurism or The Bite. Okay. I don't know which one it is, but I wasn't really familiar with them. They say they've got internet and got hooked on porn and social media, same as the New York Post.
Quote mark.
And then because I didn't know this place, I looked up who they were. And on there about us, it says, we're a small award-winning independent team of reporters and writers who pride ourselves on a commitment to accuracy and ethics in journalism.
Everyone says this.
The bitter irony. And then you have outlets like NME. Elon Musk gave an Amazon tribe the internet, and now they're addicted to porn, just directly trying to smear Elon Musk here.
Yeah.
Then, of course, The Mirror, saying much the same thing. Unfortunate addictions. Again, not true. The Irish Star, addictions after being given internet access by Elon Musk. Any opportunity to attack Elon, I think it is.
Yeah.
Fox News as well. Amazon tribe Starlink internet access made kids lazy, hooked on social media. They didn't say pornography, though. So missed out on something. I think they're probably just trying to bash up
9
young
to 5.
people.
They stopped. Yeah, they're lazy now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And left-wing outlet, joe.co.uk. Here we go. Falling afoul of misinformation. It's good to see them failing because they are insufferable.
Oh,
aren't they?
yes. Absolutely.
And one of the most sensationalist of all, unsurprising, was TMZ. Tribe Starlink hookup results in porn addiction with 3 exclamation points. Not true. And this one was the funniest of all, I think. From MoneyWise, an isolated Amazon tribe got connected to the internet through Elon Musk's Starlink, and now they're glued to explicit adult sites and social media. Here's how to buy Starlink pre-IPO. And if you don't know, a pre-IPO investment means buying shares in a private company before its initial public offering. So that means, like, Elon Musk has got these tribals addicted to porn. Here's how you can profit off of it.
Yeah.
Which is just delightfully evil. I love to see that level of malevolence in the world. But yes, what started out as a cautionary tale about the dangers of the internet has turned into a cautionary tale about the dangers of the internet.
Yeah. It's just such lazy journalism, isn't it? You know, it's such lazy journalism. They got a headline and then it's just been, you know, just filtered and filtered and filtered and filtered on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's the basis of my complaint, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's obviously very important social consequences to this, aren't there? That tribe's now been defamed. They're known as this sort of basement-dwelling, terminally online tribe.
But this is the problem: is that there's no, they get away with it. They get away with this all the time. You know, no matter what, there's never any repercussions that comes back on these media sites for printing stuff like this, no matter what effect it has on people.
Yeah.
You know.
Except, of course, GB News, who's always in the Ofcom.
Well, yeah, there's the wrong side, isn't it?
Yeah, wrong side.
The funny thing is that tribe actually has a lawyer, and
Oh, you have the tribe of Gooners.
exactly.
So remote Amazon tribe has a lawyer.
They do, and they're part of the tribe as well, and so it might actually turn out that they're going to get some legal recompense at the end, which would be a silver lining, wouldn't it? Could you imagine all the mainstream media getting sued by an Amazonian tribe,
and then winning?
Yeah. Their huts are going to be paved in gold. You know, it's going to be lovely.
What would they spend it on? What would they buy?
They're going to be loaded by the end of it.
Hi folks, thanks for watching. If you'd like to support us, you can go to lotuseast.com for £5 a month and sign up and watch Bo's amazing Epoch series. Bo's, of course, a historian, and he does hours and hours and hours of long-form history content, such as this one on Captain James Cook. These are things he tends to cover subjects that are actually slightly outside of normal, popular histories. So you get to learn about things that are very interesting that you otherwise may well have missed.